Hi, Drezz here on behalf of Gearspace, and today I want to talk about the PreSonus Eris Studio 5 active monitors. They're an active monitor designed for home studios and smaller professional mix rooms. It's the latest iteration of the Eris range. There have been some upgrades and we're going to look into it. They feature a 5.2 inch low frequency driver, which is constructed of a composite weaved material. They have a high frequency driver, which is a low mass 1 inch silk dome tweeter. They give a punchier bass response and a more balanced high-end response than previous models in the Eris range. They have something called EBM, which stands for elliptical boundary modeled, and this is a waveguide, so it's a way of dispersing the sound at a certain angle. So on the horizontal you have a 120-degree spread. Basically it helps your stereo imaging, so it makes it easy for you to pinpoint things in the stereo field. On the vertical you have a 60-degree spread on the waveguide, so it means that you will get less reflections if you put the speakers on, say, a table, a desk or a console than you would from a conventional speaker. The input options on this speaker are very flexible. You have three main inputs. You have a balanced XLR, you have a balanced TRS jack, and you have an unbalanced RCA. So depending on what the configuration of your studio is, you're pretty well covered for all line inputs. On the back of the speaker at the top section you have three rotary knobs. One is for gain, which is self-explanatory, it's the gain of the speaker. To the right of the gain knob you have two additional knobs, one labelled mid and one labelled high. These are essentially EQ controls with plus and minus 6 dB, and they can be tailored to suit your room. Below the gain knob you have a standby switch on off, so if you engage this switch it basically means that if there's no signal going into the speaker after a certain amount of time, the speaker will go into standby mode, and as soon as it detects audio going back through the speaker then it will switch the speaker back on automatically. It's a very useful feature. Underneath the mid knob you have a low roll off with three settings: flat, 80 Hz and 100 Hz. This is essentially if one is mixing for smaller devices like buds or phones or tablets or something which don't have that low frequency output. It means that you can audition your material for those devices to make sure that everything still sounds good. Below the high EQ knob you have a switch labelled acoustic space, and this has three settings: flat 0 dB and minus 2 dB and minus 4 dB, and this is essentially for people who have smaller rooms or maybe untreated rooms, and this will reduce the reflections of your room, so you might want to experiment with that. And if you've got a way of measuring your room, SonarWorks or something like that, you can experiment with those settings to get the optimum performance out of the speaker. The peak SPL is 102 decibels, and that's at a distance of 1 meter. The crossover frequency is 3.5 kHz between the bass and the high frequency drivers. They're shielded against RF interference, they have a subsonic filter, and they have output current limiting. The frequency response is 48 Hz to 20 kHz. The fact that these speakers go to 48 Hz on the bass end is quite remarkable for the size of speaker, and in fact in smaller rooms you probably won't even need a subwoofer. The bass is very well represented, and it's shockingly represented for a speaker of this size. They're really quite... They sound very punchy on the bass end, you know. You're not going to get massive amounts of sub, but it's pretty good.